How has Goldline been faring during all of that?
It's just been such a roller coaster. Well, I'm definitely very like glass half full and full of optimism. So I mean, we all just miss it and want to get back out on the ice.
Ready.
So, Andrew, hello. Nice to have you in here. And it's Tuesday afternoon here in Berlin, and good morning to Canada.
Well, good morning from Canada, and thank you for having me on, Patricia. It's nice to speak with you.
How was the last year for you with all the pandemics going on? I guess Canada wasn't any different than Europe.
No, you got it. It was a crazy year, and we miss curling so much. Now the situation starts to improve with vaccinations rolling out, and it looks like everybody in Canada will be vaccinated by September. So it's perfect timing for the curling season.
Okay, so that's running smoothly. We had huge problems in Germany concerning the whole vaccination process.
It's not perfect over here, but we just hope it can go smoothly and as fast as possible. Our neighbors in America, they're rolling out the vaccinations really quickly. So I'm very happy to see, some of the clubs are able to reopen in America, and a lot of those guys are able to be back on the ice, safely and all this.
So what's the impression that you have? How are the people in general and the curlers are dealing with the situation?
Yeah, the curlers are really resilient, and I know, like at my club, we only managed to play 3 games, and the games that we played were totally different from any other times we were curling, because we had all the different rules. There were markings on the ice for where we had to stand, and there was a whole like video we had to watch to show like the flow of movement on the ice, so that you're never within 2 meters of any other curler. So it was a little bit challenging. And my first game, I remember just being, kind of confused, and, everybody was that way. But we were just happy to play. And like I said, I only played 3 games this year, but, I was happy for those games. And, afterwards, we all love our tradition of having a drink with the with our team and with the, the opposition. And a lot of regions we were unable to do that. In my club, I was able to sit with my team, with some distance between us. But, it was really challenging and just felt weird, different rules, lack of the traditions that we always love with the socialization. And it made it really difficult.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we did a feature about the curling rules for the pandemic time of Curling Canada, and it was very interesting to see how much thought went into that. And it looked a bit like crazy, but well thought craziness. So it
Yeah.
did work in practice.
It really did, so in all honesty, it was well thought out and it did work. It was just, you needed everybody to kind of know, their path, through the ice, from, their shot to where do they stand while they're waiting for their opposition to throw, and then where do they go as they change to the next person on their team throwing. So it was well thought out, and the people quickly, after a couple of ends, seemed to understand it, and it did work well in all clubs that I'd heard of.
Okay, so what was your impression about the one person instead of two doing the sweeping?
I guess it was really interesting to see that. I like sweeping a lot, but it was kind of nice to have a break sometimes if you sweep every single rock from end to end. So there were parts of that were okay, but I was just I'm used to being with 2 sweepers obviously, and we're both working hard to to sweep as needed. So I missed having that extra support, but it was interesting. It was something that we just like many other rule changes this year, had to be something we just lived with.
Um, Given the pandemic is over someday, you think this rule will be changed back?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I'd like to see us get back to the regular curling, as we're used to, and especially with everything to do, after the game or during the game with just socialization and being able to talk to the other players and, shake hands and have a drink afterwards. Like all these things I would love to see again with, when we're vaccinated and it can be done safely. But, we can play with modified rules in curling and stay safe. So we have some flexibility and resiliency amongst curlers to continue playing our game.
Mm. I think besides the social situation, I mean, sport is always about gathering, about meeting people. Um, I got the idea that a lot of rings really need also these social
Yeah.
activities to have a bit of income from the drinks, from whatever food they sell. Is that your thinking too?
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was a really, big effect on the clubs to not have the ability in many situations not being able to serve drinks or food afterwards. It's a hugely significant revenue generator for many clubs. And some of them, without that revenue, that framed their decision of being able to open or not this season. So, there was a lot of talk amongst clubs that I was communicating with that, without the bar and with membership unsure of whether they felt safe or not to play this year, that kind of, forced their decision to close this year because they knew it would be a losing venture if they were unable to, get the same number of membership or even have a threshold that would make it viable. And then to not have the, food and drink service available as well, it would just make it, too difficult for them to sustain their operations without those, without the income from those levels.
Mm. Yeah, I guess. I mean, what has the state done for the curling clubs, the curling rings? Is there any sort of help?
Yeah, there is for sure, and at the our national level, there have been programs, and then also more locally, there have been programs too, and especially in our region, there's been a good program for curling clubs where there are grants. That help them to subsidize the cost of their utility bills, which are, probably their largest expense. So that's really helpful. And I know that was, a huge part of what enabled a number of clubs to remain open through this because they were able to have that support. So yeah, we were fortunate in Canada that the government was at all levels, really seemed to cooperate and collaborate to help out, businesses, organizations as best as they could.
That sounds much better than over here in Europe.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I don't know because we have so many countries in Europe, and so every country does their own rules, and even below that level, I mean, Germany has 16 states, and a lot of that is state level. So we have the federal government plus 16, and then we have another 28 countries in Europe. Everyone does it differently, and
Right.
I've been talking to a friend in Italy the last 2 weeks, and he said, no, no, we are open, no problem. In Germany, all the rinks are closed since, I think, December.
Yeah.
And even if our numbers are much lower than the ones in Italy, but
Yeah.
that's really crazy. I mean, you don't really have any chance to understand what's going on because the situation is diverse in almost every region. And but what you tell us, that sounds very reassuring, very good for the clubs.
Yeah, to use very round numbers, I think maybe at the beginning of this season, only half of the clubs in even North America, were able to open. And then as we had further lockdowns, especially, in Canada, the clubs that had opened, were forced to close again. For some clubs like mine, unfortunately, that happened a couple times. They were open and then they were closed, and they were open and they were closed. And so by the end of December, there really weren't too many clubs that were still able to be open. And the ones that had tried to stay open, basically had to weigh their option, and even more of them at that point closed their doors. So at this point, speaking to you now on March 16th, there are almost no clubs in Canada that are open, except for some pockets and in certain regions that have managed quite well through the pandemic and have been able to retain some sense of normalcy. But as a whole, there's not too many clubs in Canada that are currently still playing. But I am encouraged in America, where vaccination is happening quite rapidly, that some of the clubs are now able to reopen for their spring summer session, which is really encouraging. And overall, I'm quite optimistic for the fall, especially in Canada specifically, for the vaccinations to roll out to the greater population, so that we're ready to get back to the game as we know it, and hopefully some sort of the new normal.
How has Goldline been faring during all of that?
It's just been such a roller coaster. There was a really positive outlook, after we got through the first wave of this pandemic, and, the fall looked okay. And then we had the second wave and things got really challenging again. This year, because a lot of the clubs, did not open, and a lot of curlers did not play, they adjusted their purchasing accordingly. And so, we felt that effect. And then we also saw an interesting trend of, some of the popular items this year. So the people that were able to curl, really had to make sure that they had their own, delivery device, or their own, stabilizer. And it really became important for people that were curling to ensure they had all of their own gear. So, on the, more positive side, we did see a trend towards that. So there was increased demand in certain areas.
Yeah, we start to adjust to the situation and to learn about it. I mean, when we talked roughly 1 year ago, we didn't know what was coming, if the season was completely dead, if we would have for the next 2 or 3 years no chance for nothing. And I really remember this sort of uncertainty. I mean, we still have uncertainty, but like I hear it from your words, we have started to get a grip on the situation, even if we don't like the situation.
Yes, that's for sure. You have to adjust and make the most out of it, because the situation is not in our control, and we just have to do everything we can, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to normal.
So basically, what we hear from you is bottom line, not really bad news concerning Goldline. Is that?
Yeah, you know what? That's fair to say, and we're fortunate to have some time right now to really look at our operations and our strategies and make improvements and think a lot about the future. And that part's encouraging, because we're just using this time productively and towards a goal that and that I know will be helpful, for us and for our role within the sport to help grow the sport. So watch for some new creative, programs, products, and ideas, and just things that we'll be involved in that will help to grow the game. And we're excited for that moving forward, to dedicate more of our time and resources to these endeavors.
So we already slipped into the future. What is your scenario for this fall, for the next season? I mean, this season, at least here over in Europe, has been more or less dead, with about, I would say, 70%. If you have guessed me the overall effect. I mean, you were a bit more lucky in Canada, but what's your basic scenario for the fall for curling in Canada for Goldline?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely very like glass half full and full of optimism. So I'm gonna continue along that vein. But certainly I do expect with the vaccinations worldwide that will give people a lot of confidence to return to, their daily routines in some sort of new normal. I'll keep using that kind of idea. But I think within curling, I'm encouraged additionally because we've proven that we can make changes to the game. Yeah, maybe they're temporary, or maybe some of them are here to stay. I don't know, but we're able to adapt the game to ensure that we can play safely. So I think that if we're vaccinated, and there's the ability to modify the rules as needed, that we can all return very safely, in the fall. And I'm really hopeful for that because I played 3 games. Some people didn't even get to play any this year, and so I know we all just miss it and want to get back out on the ice. And I've been watching we just watched the Brier Championship in Canada and the Hearts before that, and it was just so nice to see curling on TV again. And I'm hopeful that we can all get back on the ice too. But I am very optimistic for that because the situation seems to continue improving, and that seems like we're on the right track.
Okay, so that sounds very optimistic. But first, you have to get through the summer, which
Yeah,
is warm and without curling.
yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's going to be interesting. There have been some clubs that I've spoken with that expect to open earlier this year if they're able to. So, where they normally would have opened in August or September, and there's talk of them opening in July, for example. So there is, not all in all clubs, but in certain clubs there might be a chance, and it's often in some larger curling centers, and so I'm hopeful for that. And then also in America, there are some clubs that are able to curl through the spring and summer as well. So we hope to see that happen, and in other countries as well. Curling is pretty well year round. And so, there might be some other opportunities in, other countries over the course of the summer. But yeah, I expect it'll be more, more time, to continue looking at things. But we will certainly be ready for the fall to roll out, some cool new programs and just be ready with our operations for the fall.
That sounds very interesting. We talk to you when you have some new products ready to show to the people.
Always, always. I'm happy to share that with you. And, I think, also for the fall, you know, I know that myself, I haven't been able to do anything, as far as, activities outside of the home, really, like so many of us. And so I think for the fall, maybe people that were unable to do anything all of last year might choose now to start curling and to try curling. So I could see us, being busier with some of the beginner equipment for this fall when the season, restarts and things reopen, because I think people will want to get out there and do things and be active and be social when it's safe to do so, and in a manner that's safe. But I think people are going to want to get out there afterwards, and I think curling is a good option for folks.
That is a wonderful end of our short talk. Thanks very much for having been here with me, and we talk to you soon.
Thank you, Patricia.